I would like to just highlight some of the ways you can get in, because I started off as an intern with UNHCR in Uganda, in my country. I really wanted to work with UNHCR because of the number of refugees that were flooding into Uganda. And I was still in school at the time when the Rwanda genocide happened. And I think it affected my chosen career path, because there were a number of refugees that were flooding into Uganda from Rwanda, but there were also the corpses of dead bodies that were floating into the sea, into the lake. And when I saw this, I think it just kind of changed also the trajectory of what I wanted to do, and I asked for an internship at UNHCR. So I started off as an intern and then got other jobs and ended up in the United Nations somewhere down the line in my career 10 years later. But we have professional and higher categories, P and D. P is the professional category, D is the director category, which is the highest level. Then we have general service and related categories that relate to administration, human resource, and other supporting roles. And then we have national professional officers that work in their countries in the United Nations. So if you are a Kenyan and there's a United Nations office in Kenya, then you are recruited as a national officer there. And we have field staff, of course, that work in different field offices around the world, because most of the United Nations offices are headquartered in Geneva and New York, but most of them have field offices as well. And then there are senior appointments, which are normally political, like the Secretary General, the Deputy Secretary General, the Under Secretary Generals, and those are the bodies, the people that head each organization, and they're normally political appointees by the General Assembly or the Human Rights Council. Next slide, please. So as Christine was saying, the Young Professionals programs, most UN bodies have a Young Professionals program, but it takes people they take people in their 30s normally, below the age of 30. So if you're above 30, you wouldn't necessarily fit that category. And for the general service that I talked about, administrators, human resource, there's normally a test that you take. If you pass the test, then you can be eligible to be recruited. Then there are junior professional officers programs. So some countries, especially European countries, fund nationals to be junior professional officers. Again, this is something that you do below the age of, I think, 40. And I know the Netherlands government does fund African professionals in that category, the Italian government as well. I'm not sure about the US if they do, but there are a few European countries that do fund African professionals. But this category is, a lot of the European countries have funding for their own nationals in that program, and they second them to the United Nations. But however, some of them have been generous enough to offer that funding also for Africans. So do look up General Professional Program on the internet. And then there is the UNV program. So you are a United Nations volunteer, but you don't have the same salary. You have a kind of stipend or allowance, and you can work with whatever agency you want. There's information on that online. And then each agency has an internship program. Like for me, I knew I wanted to work with the United Nations when I saw what was happening in our region, and I approached UNHCR. At the time, now it's so difficult, but at the time, I mean, it wasn't as difficult to get in terms of an internship. It's not paid, but for me, what I wanted was the name on my CV, because that name opened doors. When people would see it, even though I was doing something very menial, like just photocopying something or just typing out the letter that the professional would say, you do this, or they would send me to talk to the refugee that's knocking at the door. They would look and say, you go, But it opened doors for me. And then consultants, consultancies as well. Sometimes the UN recruits externally, even people like team builders, because we need people to build our teams, or we need someone to just come and replace someone who's on maternity leave. So there is that avenue as well. I want to say that for me, I went to Geneva on a 3-month contract. So I started at a very low level, and I left a job that I was doing in Uganda at Save the Children, where I was a manager, but I went to the lowest level, and I went there for 3 months. I had a 5-year contract with Save the Children, but I said, you know what? I want to step out of my box, I want a new challenge. So I started really at the bottom, and people were like, you're crazy. I had a son as well. So, you know, there were things that I had to sacrifice in order to get where I am right now. So I came in on one of those short, let's say, consultant things. I didn't know I was going to stay for 13 years. I came with an agenda for 3 months, but I ended up staying for 13 years. Next slide, please. So the UN is complex. Maybe you might not see all that. I wanted to put it there because people think when we work for the UN, they're like, what is the United Nations doing? What are you doing for this problem? But we have this from the General Assembly to the Security Council, and then we have the agencies in the middle, on the blue level, where we have all those agencies that are there working on specialized issues. The World Bank, where she works in, UN Human Rights, where I work, there's UNICEF, there's UN Women, there are just so many agencies. Yes, we're all under the United Nations, but we're not necessarily doing the same projects. So we have to make that distinction. I mean, there's also the International Court of Justice that is there, and you know, all these secretariat organizations in blue. Well, you'll have time to look at this online, but I just wanted to show you that it is a system that is complex, but it's a system that you have to know what you want to do in order to go for it. Whether you want to be a consultant or a volunteer or whatever, but you have to read about it and get to know what you want to do.